Oh, we are back here on your morning wake up. Like to get a lot of different voices on about a variety of issues, the hot button topics. Don't want it to be the echo chamber. I'm not digging it. All right, never have. So we don't offer you that here, and that may mean sometimes our guests are going to tick you off, and other times you'll be nodding the whole time you're listening or driving. That's okay. It can go both ways. We don't pre-assume anything. In fact, we're going to do that now. We're going to bring in Sean Themea. Sean is the Chief of Staff at Young Americans for Liberty, and he's on the other end of our line. Morning, Sean.
Hey, good to be here. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. Thanks for being here. Tell us about Young Americans for Liberty. Give me the elevator speech on your organization.
Absolutely. So Young Americans for Liberty, the only group out there that's both reaching students on college campuses and waking them up to the ideas of limited government and the Constitution, right, which is important for me because when I came into college, I voted for Obama and thought government could be the solution to our problems, but I left a smarter man thanks to YAL. And we're also the only group that's both doing that and placing students on campaigns at the state rep and state senate level to help elect good local elected politicians across the country who are actually going to stand for the people.
Sean, let me ask you. Okay, so I get the drift, but how does that juxtapose with reality now on the right side of the political equation, where you've got a lot of people, and that includes the former president, who, as populists, are not as interested in smaller government, and in fact, in some cases, run away from that concept, which has always been a pretty rock-ribbed conservative thing. Do you have problems right now? I mean, there's not 100% agreement on that. Let's put it that way, inside the Republican Party or the conservative movement. What say you?
Yeah, so we think at Young Americans for Liberty, and I personally think that Ron Paul got it right, where the government is the best when it's so small you can fit it inside of a bathtub, right? And that ultimately, no matter who's president, who's in charge of this country, if you want to call it being in charge, at the end of the day, the people are more free when they're left the heck alone. So we will always stand for the ideas and support candidates, at the local level who stand for those ideas.
All right. So that would put you guys more into the libertarian category, whether with a giant L or a small L. But that the libertarian would seem to be, since you mentioned Ron Paul, would be the fit there, would it not?
Yeah. I'd say we consider ourselves small L libertarian.
Okay. So we'll jump off from there. The early primaries here, the one in Ohio got a lot of attention because you've got somebody trying to take over for and a kind of a wide open race for Rob Portman. Also the gubernatorial race there, which now that the populist candidates on the Republican side did not win out, that would seem to favor somebody like Governor DeWine, who's still pretty popular in the Buckeye State. But what did you glean from the first round here as we get into primaries for the midterms?
Yeah, well, looking out of Ohio, I saw a couple of things. Like it or not, the Trump bump still matters. You see that with J.D. Vance soaring to the win over there.
Okay.
I'd like to think as well that people, heard J.D. Vance's message where he was pretty clear from the start that there should be no American involvement in Ukraine, which I can support him on that front. We've got plenty of issues to take care of in our own country before we go sending billions of dollars or troops even overseas. And when it comes to Governor DeWine, he won the race.
So you disagree? You disagree? Wait a minute. Stop. Hang on. Don't go further. Let's.
Sure.
I don't want you disagree with the United States move so far with Ukraine. I mean, many Republicans do not. They think, whether they support the president or not, they think we should be doing even more than what we're doing. You disagree with that?
Yeah, no, I completely disagree. I think that, the war machine has a lot to gain from endless war, whether it's in the Middle East, whether it's in Eastern Europe. Think of it this way. I mean, D.C. and governors across the country during COVID made it illegal for a lot of people to work, to put food on the table during these lockdowns. And it was like pulling teeth to get even $600, $1,000, to working Americans during that time. But at the drop of a hat, we can send $33 billion over to Ukraine, no questions asked, and D.C. unites to that. I mean, I think that a lot of American people are opposed to that, regardless of whether they're elected Republicans and Democrats are saying. So I think that's the core of the issue, is that the D.C. elites are not looking out for the interests of the American people. They're looking overseas, and they're looking in with their own special interests first.
Where should the interests lie there? What should American politicians, whether they're running here in a primary or they're currently busy governing, what should they be focused on?
Yeah, well, it's almost too simple of an answer for me. I think they should be focused primarily on leaving us the heck alone. I mean, government is just, intertwined in every aspect of our lives, it seems, whether it's, spying on us from D.C. or from even, state apparatuses, whether it's trying to raise our taxes and spend our money for things we never consented to. I mean, I think that they go and trying to repeal back laws, right, that let the American people in each individual state just do their own thing. Because when you unleash American freedom, when you unleash people to just go and live their own lives, not only are they going to be happier, but they're going to give more back than they ever would from being, taxed to death or overregulated to death or spied on to death.
Do American politicians spend too much time taking their cues from Twitter and Facebook and not enough from actually talking to the electorate? What do you think?
Yeah, I think that even more than Twitter and Facebook, they spend too much of their time taking cues from their lobbyists, right, and from these special interest groups. I mean, what we do at Young Americans for Liberty in part is reach constituents when there's key issues that come up, like constitutional carry or medical freedom fights at the state level. And we reach out to voters in those districts and say, hey, do you know, first of all, who your state representative is? And if you do you know that they're voting XYZ way? And do you support that? If not, well, here, press this button. You'll go talk to them right away. You'll tell them how you feel. So connecting these voters directly with their representatives, that's a small part in how we play in actually getting the elected officials to respond to their base.
Sean, tell people where they can find you online, okay?
Absolutely. That's yaliberty.org, and we're on all the social media platforms as well. yaliberty.org, Young Americans for Liberty.
Sean Themea, our guest today, Chief of Staff at Young Americans for Liberty. As he says, libertarian with a small L. And interesting conversation. Thanks, Sean, for coming on. I appreciate it. Take care. Stay safe, all right?
Hey, you too, David. Thanks for having me.
All right, thank you. We'll be back. You see, different voices overall. I mean, we get different perspectives on this. And now, is that the one that's going to hold sway in 2022 in these United States? I don't know about that. But it's, I think from people who say we should take a step back on X, Y, or Z, I'm always interested in what they have to say. I may vehemently disagree with them. You might too. Or you might say, yeah, that checks the boxes. I still want to hear them, okay? And they're no slouches on getting the word out. We find out a little more today. Happy to have them here. We'll be back in a moment on the Morning Wake Up. Don't go away. 1320 WILS.